raining for 3 days straight. The kind of rain that doesn't let up, doesn't ease, just keeps falling like it's trying to drown the whole world. I live alone in a small rental house on the edge of town, tucked between two long-abandoned homes and a wall of thick trees. It's quiet out there, usually too quiet. But that week, all I could hear was water. Water on the roof, water on the windows, water rising in the gutters. It was Thursday night. I had just finished dinner and sat down to watch something, anything to distract from the storm. That's when the power went out. No flicker, just instant darkness. 1 second the TV was on, the next, nothing. I sat there for a moment in total silence, lit only by the faint gray glow of the storm outside. Then I noticed my phone was dead. I had just charged it. No light on the charger. I tried the wall lamp. Nothing. It wasn't just the power, it was like everything electric had died. I grabbed a candle from above the stove, lit it with a cheap plastic lighter, and tried to ignore how quiet everything suddenly was. Then came the knock. 3 of them. Slow, solid. Coming from the back door. The one that faced the woods. Nobody ever used that door. Not even delivery drivers. I stood perfectly still, listening. 3 more knocks. I walked toward the door, heart racing, holding the candle high. Who's there? No answer. I pressed my ear against the wood, too afraid to look out the peephole. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Right on the other side of the door. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. The candle nearly went out. I rushed to the door, locked the deadbolt, and backed into the hallway. That's when I saw it. My bedroom window was cracked open. Water was dripping in. I hadn't touched that window in weeks. I shut it, locked it, and turned to leave the room when my flashlight died. The candle had already burned out. Now I was in total darkness again. And then, just barely above the sound of the rain, I heard a voice. You saw me. It was right behind me. I spun around, swinging the dead flashlight. Nothing. The air felt cold, heavy. My breath came out in clouds. That's when I saw the first footprint. Small, bare, wet. Right in the middle of my bedroom floor. Another, then another. Leading out of the room and down the hallway. I followed them. There was no light, just the occasional flash of lightning lighting up the hallway. That's when I saw her. She was standing at the end of the hall. A little girl, maybe 8, drenched from head to toe, hair clinging to her face, hiding her features. She didn't move, didn't speak. Then she smiled. I ran back into my bedroom, slammed the door, and locked it. I leaned against it, holding it shut with my whole body. That's when I realized the lock had already been undone. I know I had locked it earlier. Then the doorknob began to turn. Slowly, not aggressively, just testing me. It stopped. Silence. Then 3 knocks, but not from the door, from inside the closet. I screamed and bolted. I didn't look, I didn't care. I ran barefoot out of the house, into the freezing rain, and didn't stop until I reached my neighbor's porch. He opened the door half asleep, took one look at me, and said, Jesus, what happened? I couldn't speak. The police came. They checked the house, nothing. No footprints, no wet spots, no signs of a break-in, no little girl. They said maybe I was exhausted. Maybe it was a night terror. Maybe my mind played tricks in the dark. But I know what I saw. A week later, I got a call from a woman claiming she was a researcher. She said she'd heard about what happened and asked if I knew the history of that house. I said no. She told me a little girl had once lived there, years ago. Her name was Eliza. She used to sleepwalk during storms. One night she walked into the woods and drowned in the floodwaters. They didn't find her for 3 days. She was 8 years old. That night I couldn't sleep. And just as I was finally drifting off, I heard it. 3 slow knocks, not at the door, at my window. 3rd floor, and I never opened the curtains to see. I just pulled the blanket over my head and prayed the knocking wouldn't come again. It was the 3rd night of the storm. The kind of rain that sounded like static against the windows, never stopping, never softening. I hadn't seen anyone outside for hours. Not even cars passed by. Just darkness and the endless noise of water. I live alone above a small bookstore my grandfather left me. The building is old. Real brick, crooked wood floors, a weird smell in the back that never goes away. Most of the shops on the street have been abandoned for years. My place is the only one with a working light, and even that flickers when the wind gets bad. That night, something felt off from the beginning. I couldn't sleep. I tried reading, tried lying in bed with the sound machine on, but nothing helped. At some point, I gave up and went downstairs to the store. It was past midnight. The lights were out, except one bulb above the register that buzzed faintly. That light had been dead for years. I'd never fixed it, but now it glowed, dim, twitchy, like it had been waiting to come back on. I stood in the doorway for a long time just staring at it. Then I heard it, the sound of the front door handle turning, slow, testing. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I was standing between two shelves out of view from the windows. The handle kept turning back and forth like someone was trying to come in without making a sound. And then it stopped. I waited. 10 seconds. Nothing. 20. Then I heard footsteps, inside, wet, soft footsteps on the old wooden floor. I hadn't unlocked the door, I hadn't heard it open, but someone was inside the shop with me. I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing. I slowly stepped toward the front. The air felt thick, heavy, like it was pressing down on my shoulders. One of the books from the history shelf dropped to the floor with a loud thud. I jumped. The footsteps stopped. I waited, heart pounding in my ears. Then I saw it. A puddle. Spreading slowly from the center aisle. Black water soaking into the floorboards. I looked up, no leaks. The ceiling was dry. In the middle of the puddle sat a book I'd never seen before. Thick, leather-bound, no title, no markings. I walked over and picked it up. The leather was cold, wet. The entire book felt like it had just been pulled out of a river. The pages stuck together, swollen with moisture, all except the first one. It had a single sentence written in small, shaky handwriting. "You invited her in." The candle I'd been holding flickered, then went out. Total darkness swallowed the room, and in that silence I heard breathing. Not mine. Someone else's. Close. Behind me. I spun around. Nothing. I felt the damp book still in my hands. My fingers had gone numb from the cold. I turned and ran upstairs. I slammed the apartment door shut, locked it, threw the bolt, and wedged a chair under the knob. I stood in the dark for a minute, catching my breath. Then the lights came on. All of them. The hallway. The kitchen. Even the little desk lamp I never used. I hadn't flipped any switches. I stepped forward slowly. On the coffee table sat a cup of tea, steam rising. I hadn't made tea. I walked closer, then the TV turned on. No input, just a blue screen buzzing with static, and through the static, a face. It wasn't moving, just staring. White skin, wide, hollow eyes, no lips, just a gash of a mouth hanging open. I yanked the plug from the wall. Nothing happened. The screen stayed on. Then the voice came, low, wet, whispering. "You let her in." The words weren't coming from the TV, they were coming from behind me. I turned slowly, there was no one there. When I looked back at the screen, it was black. The cup of tea was cold. The lights had turned themselves off. Everything looked normal again, but I could still feel it, like someone was watching from just beyond the edge of sight. At 3:13 a.m. I woke up again, this time to the sound of pages turning. Soft at first, then faster, thousands of pages flipping all at once. I got out of bed and opened the apartment door. The stairwell below was glowing. Every single book in the store was open, pages moving on their own, windless but loud. In the middle of the floor sat the leather book, open to a new page. She lives here now. I shut the door and locked it. I haven't been back downstairs since. I boarded up the stairs the next day. I sleep with every light on, I don't read anymore, and when it rains, I hear her, walking, turning pages. Sometimes I find the book in places I didn't leave it, on the counter, in my bed, on the bathroom sink, always open, always wet, always with a new sentence. The last one said, "Next time she'll knock upstairs." It started with a wrong turn. I was coming back from a work conference, exhausted, barely keeping my eyes open. The rain had started around dusk, but by midnight it was like driving underwater. I missed my exit, just drove right past it without realizing. The GPS froze, then turned off completely. No service, no signal, just a blue arrow stuck in the middle of nothing. I figured I'd take the next exit, but there wasn't one. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Still nothing. The road was empty. No signs, no cars, no lights, just rain and trees. Then finally, a wooden post came into view on the right. There was a handmade sign nailed to it. It said Dry Hollow, 2 miles. I slowed down. The name didn't sound familiar, but I didn't care. I just wanted to get off the road. A gravel path turned off into the woods. I took it. The road narrowed quickly. Trees pushed in from both sides, branches dragged against the windows like fingers. The rain kept getting heavier. I started thinking maybe this was a mistake when suddenly the woods opened up. A town, or the bones of one. Maybe a dozen buildings, all falling apart. Shingles missing, windows boarded, signs rusted over, except for one place. A diner. It had a red neon sign blinking in the window. Rose's Diner. I parked right in front and dashed in, soaking wet. The bell above the door jingled. Warm air, smell of grease and old coffee. Dim yellow lighting, but no one there. Not behind the counter, not in the booths. I stepped further in. Hello? No answer. That's when I heard the spoon, clinking slowly against a cup. I turned the corner into the main dining area. She was sitting in the last booth. Mid-50s, gray hair pulled back, soaked from head to toe. Her coat still dripping onto the floor. She looked up at me like she'd been expecting me. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. I asked her where I was, if there was a hotel. She smiled, but it didn't feel warm. "You should leave before the rain stops." I opened my mouth to ask what that meant, but something changed in the room. The jukebox turned on behind me. It played a slow, crackly tune I didn't recognize. The front door slammed shut. I spun around. Someone was inside. A tall man, soaked, dressed in a black suit, standing just inside the doorway, not moving, just watching. I blinked. He was gone. I turned back to the woman. She was staring into her tea like nothing had happened. She pushed a napkin toward me. Written on it in smudged blue ink, "Don't look out the window." I looked anyway. Figures. Dozens of them, standing just outside the glass, soaked, still, facing in. I stepped back. My hand touched the counter. Something grabbed it. Cold, slippery, wet. I pulled away and backed into the hallway behind the kitchen. The woman stood up. "They know you saw them," she said. She walked into the kitchen. I followed a few seconds later. She was gone. No back exit, no door, no sign she'd ever been there. I ran to the front. The windows were black, not dark, black. Like the town was gone, like the world outside just vanished. I opened the front door and it wasn't the same street anymore. It looked newer, brighter. The buildings were untouched, clean. There were people walking around now, wearing the same black suits, same soaked clothes, all of them looking up at me. Expressionless. I slammed the door and locked it, ran upstairs to a small apartment above the diner, locked that door too. That was 2 nights ago. Time hasn't moved. My phone says 3:06 a.m., still. The rain hasn't started again, but I know when it does, they'll come back. Sometimes I hear the jukebox start playing again. Sometimes I hear her voice whisper through the floorboards. They only come when it rains, but they stay for those who look. I wish I hadn't looked.